Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Tradomics. Today, with this video, we will analyze the most important US tech stocks in American market and explore how Trump's tariffs have influenced a movement that, according to our T-cycle analysis method based on data analysis and different time cycles, could have been predicted or not. You will realize as I'm explaining a few things, especially for those that are new to the channel, that this kind of news has only influenced the movements that high frequency tradings, or better the HFT, had already planned. So if you're tired of following news that flip-flops the market day by day, but want to listen to a new non-discretionary mathematical method based on numbers for your portfolio's stocks, well, suggest you to subscribe to the channel so that you will receive the notifications of the analysis as soon as possible to avoid being catch off guard by sudden market movements, especially during this time. So as for the other analysis that I do, we start with Microsoft. So in the last video analysis that I left on purpose these two arrows, I was flagging two important swings. One that was the scandal that was done on the 4th of March 2025. And I said that if this scandal would have been broken to the downside, we could have had more move to the downside. As the other flip of the coin here, I also flagged this swing for potential upside. So what happened is that we broke with this candle, this swings, and on top of it, we have had another negative cycle here. Therefore, if you wanted to interpret the analysis, we can say that this was correct because by looking at the two swings, we could have had further move either to the downside or to the upside. So in this T cycle analysis, of course, it's implemented the swing trading. This is something I don't explain too much, but if you want to have an understanding how this analysis works, you can click on the pop-up banner on the right hand side, Introduction to the T-cycle analysis. From this low here to this low here, we have had a negative cycle. This cycle had a duration of 18 bars. So therefore here, this move can be considered as a T plus one. So a T plus one is a bi-weekly cycle with a duration between 13 to 22 days. So here I can update the chart and I can put T plus one. Now the thing is that what is important to note on Microsoft is that from this low here, we were flagging the possibility to have a new yearly cycle. But this new yearly cycle here has turned into a negative cycle. And Microsoft was already flagging this move already in the last episode, so beginning of March. So in a certain way, Microsoft was I'd say anticipating the move of the other stocks. We will see that Amazon is not in this situation, but of course Google it is, and also some other stocks. So if you want to have an interpretation about all these stocks that are reported in this video, Microsoft was already flagging something that then happened also on the index Nasdaq 100, S&P 500, and also Dow Jones, because here we had already in the last episode a negative cycle. Now the question is, as for an analysis that I've done last week about the indexes, how long can Microsoft continue to fall? Because considering that here potentially we have a high likelihood that this yearly cycle is negative, then the answer is that we can continue falling until the minimum duration of a T plus 5 cycle. And the minimum duration of a T plus 5 cycle on the stocks is 189 bars. So we can continue falling until the 6th of May 2025, at least. If this is a new cycle that is about to begin, and this cycle can be not just a T plus 2, but something more, because here we have all the necessary sufficient condition to close a T plus 4, 168 bars. and the maximum is 168 bars. Here potentially we can have a really nice bounce to the upside, but this is a bounce that might have the duration of a monthly cycle. For example, if this is a T plus 4, so we need a certain number of bars above this low. But considering that the T plus 5, so the superior grade of the cycle is already negative, after a bounce, whatever this is a T plus 3 or a T plus 4, then we will return back to the lows. And we will return back lower the price at 344 plus 344.79. This can happen in a time window between 189 to 339. So the minimum duration for Microsoft to continue falling, as I said, as the beginning of May. But if we wanted to actually attach another cycle, which is a T plus 3, 3 plus 4 grade, then we can extend the duration um, until a median duration of 250, roughly 255 bars. So we can continue falling until 8th of August, but we can also continue falling until 339 days. And 339 days means that we can continue going down or go, let's say, steady state situation with another push to the downside until reaching $344 and even lower until 8th of December 2025. So you need to be aware that this situation, so we can have a steady state situation, but then we can continue falling back down to this low, can continue at most until December 2025, excluding Bayetong. So that is the situation that I see at the moment on Microsoft. Of course, we have had a nice bounce back to the upside. So for sure, from this low here, we might already flagging the possibility that a T plus 1 or a T plus 2 is in development. We cannot say that this is already a T plus 2 or more because it has just happened and we haven't gone higher this stop. Here, this would be already a sign that a T plus 3 eventually will be on the way. But be careful because this is what we can foresee. So it's a bounce to the upside that can be uh, with a grade of T plus 3, T plus 4. So the duration is between 48 days to 168 days. But be careful because the T plus 5 is negative. Therefore, after a center number of bar, which might be 20, 30, even 40 days, then we have to go back down to this low. Okay, so that's the situation we have on Microsoft, and let's see all the others. Looking at Amazon here, we have a different situation compared to Microsoft. If we look at this low here and this candle that was made on the 7th of April 2025, we have an absolute low at $161.38. If we look at this one, though, 5th of August of last year, we have a low that is at 151.61. So basically, there are $10 difference. This means that this yearly cycle has not turned into a negative one. Because if we wanted to turn this cycle into a negative, we have to see that the price goes lower compared to the low from which the cycle started. And if we wanted to continue going down, this condition needs to happen before the minimum duration of the cycle, the completion of the cycle. In this case, it's 167 bars. So we are far away from the minimum duration of a T plus 5. But compared to Microsoft, we don't have the phase condition. So the cycle is still neutral, it's not negative. Therefore, the difference is that Microsoft will continue to further go down, but Amazon is not obliged to continue falling down because this swing is not broken yet. And this is a big difference. This is a big difference. I repeat, a big difference because Amazon, from a data driven perspective, is reacting better to the sell off. Or, if you will, it is stronger compared to Microsoft. And I think among the group of the stocks that I analyzed today, I think it's the strongest because we don't have such condition. In the last video also, I was flagging this swing and this swing as the potential, let's say our checkpoints, swings points to define whether from this top we have a T plus 5 or not. And this is a situation that happened. So we broke down with this or those candle, this swing and this swing. So for sure here we have at least a T plus 5. So a nearly upward cycle that is pushing the price further down and probably is not even a T plus 5, but it's a multi-yearly cycle. And in order to develop a multi-yearly cycle, we needed to have a certain number of bars below this top to develop the cycle. Upward cycle or reversal cycle are cycle that are developed that have that they develop from one top and they close the cycle on another top, whether the top is higher or lower compared to the top from which they started, or higher compared to the top from which they started. Okay, in this case the upward cycle is called positive, and in this case if a cycle close with a price level on a price level it is lower compared to the first one, then is negative. Okay, so same situation in reversal order compared to the downward cycle. Now, the thing is that from this top here, from this low here, we have had 167 bars. Therefore, we can expect another cycle in development. This cycle can be a T plus 1, T plus 2, or T plus 3. So we might have a little bit more push to the upside, and potentially here on Amazon, we might still test the moving average 200. It's true that Amazon is stronger compared to the others, but we are close to have a death cross condition. So in the next days, if the price will not return immediately back to the moving average 200 where we have a certain resistance, then the moving average 50 will cross down the moving average 200. And therefore, in any case, we will have, even on Amazon, a condition in which, well, the situation will not be ideal for long positions. Okay, especially because the indexes are now binded to a negative downward cycle T plus 5. So be really careful even on Amazon to open long position, because at the moment, when even if Amazon is strong, then I would not, let's say, exclude that this is let's say a bounce to the upside and then we will finish back down to the absolute lows again. Because if you look at the index, Nasdaq index, then we have the condition where Microsoft is at the moment. So be careful, be really careful to this move. And one of the first things that will exclude definitely this move will be to go higher compared to this top. But we need to go higher the stop by a certain time, because if we will go higher to the stop but then we will take months, then the reversal will not there. So in order to go higher to the stop, we have to spend no more than, let's say, no more than 24 days. No more than 24 days means that we have to go higher to this stop before the 28th of April 2025, because otherwise we will not have a certain reversal. Okay, and this move to the upside, so this bounce potentially to the upside will be needed also to close a T plus 3. In order to close a T plus 3, we need at least 48 bars, but this is something that can be also stretched to 89 days. Okay, so 89 days means that we can have a bounce back to the upside by at most second week of June. Okay, something like this. But then once the T plus 3 will be completed, then back to the downside. Okay, so this is the situation we have on Amazon, stronger compared to Microsoft, but be careful because the Nasdaq index and also the other indexes are not very well set up to, let's say, to open long-term, let's say long-term long position, to buy long-term position. If we look at Apple, this is a picture that is different compared to Amazon and is different compared to Microsoft. So I was already giving you an alert that this stop could have been a T plus 5 already back more than 2 episodes ago. So here we can even exclude the question mark because this is confirmed. It's even more than a yearly upward cycle. What has happened on Apple is that we fall, like all the other stocks, further down. But with this low here, that was done at $169.21, we didn't go lower compared to the top from which the T plus 5 started at $163.30. So this means that also Apple did not turn this T plus 5 into a negative cycle. So here, for the next weeks or months, we are not obliged to continue falling down. And this is the first message. But the second message is that on Apple, the T plus 5 started well ahead compared to the T plus 5 of Microsoft, of Amazon. Actually, we have 242 bars. So here, potentially, we have already more than a minimum duration. We are close to a median duration to close at T plus 5. So from this low here, what can happen on Apple is that we might have the beginning not just of a T plus 3 or T plus 4, but on Apple and only on Apple. Potentially, we will have the same situation on Tesla, we will see. But here we have the duration of a T plus 5. Therefore, we can have a move that can start a new T plus 5. And if we have a T plus 5, we can further go up longer compared to a T plus 4 or a T plus 3. But it needs to be said that Apple cannot start going up if the market, the general market setup is open for sell off. So we will still need to be careful on Apple because here we have the median, the condition to close a T plus 5. But if on the Standard and Poor's and on the Nasdaq and on the Dow Jones, we have T plus 5 that are, let's say, negative and they haven't reached yet the minimum duration, there will, here on Apple, there is a low likelihood that Apple will start beating the market going up when the sell-off is ongoing. So you have to be aware of this condition, but you have also to look at Apple and the stock itself in a general setup. Okay. But of course, here we can expect a nice bounce to the upside, and we have low probabilities to, let's say, to keep falling at least in the short term. Short term means in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. Okay. I cannot say the same for in the next 2 months, but for the short term, then Apple can have eventually a move to the upside. Okay, or short term. Short term means next week or 2 weeks. I repeat, at least, at most, sorry, in the next month, but not more than that. Okay. We have to look at the market, and given that there is a high volatility, we have to see day by day what is happening. But this is the situation that we have on Apple. Okay. So if from this low we will have more than a T plus 2, T plus 3, as I said, I'm expecting a little bit more push to the upside until getting the first resistance with the moving average 21. And if we want to have some targets, then the next target in focus will be around at 204 dollars. Okay, that's for the next weeks. On Meta, I reviewed a little bit the segmentation, and from this low here, we can start our new T plus 5 yearly cycle. So considering that this is the point in which the yearly downward cycle has started, if we gauge the duration until the low that was done here on the 7th of April, we have 236 bars. So like Apple, also on Meta, we have a more than minimum duration to have a T plus 5. And this T plus 5 is neutral positive and is not negative, because the low here is not going lower this low. Therefore, we cannot expect a situation of this kind, but rather this low might be the beginning of something new. We still have to see whether this cycle will be part, for example, of this T plus 5, or if the cycle here will will be separated from this T plus 5, and there will be something new. At the moment, we cannot know it. But for sure, we can say that from this low, we have the beginning of something that is uh, either a T plus 1 or a T plus 2. We have already spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So this is the beginning of a T plus 1, T plus 2. Uh, Meta is strong compared, for example, to to Microsoft, because here we do not have yet a death cross, but this candle, the candle of the 9th of April, went basically at the moving average 200. So we are not so far away from the moving average 200 compared to the other high-tech stocks. But here we have the beginning as well of a T plus 5. We have had already more than minimum duration of, yeah, we still have 39 bars, but it's high likelihood that from this top we have a T plus 5, because we still need 10 days more to say lower this top to say this will be the beginning of a new T plus 5. So let's see whether we will have a bounce that will go higher compared to the moving average 200. But what I fear here is that this is a T plus 4 that is negative. So we don't have a T plus 5, but we have a T plus 4 negative. And if this is negative, this is a bounce, and then we return back to the absolute lows. If this is a T plus 4, the total duration is 93 days. So 93 days, it's not yet the minimum duration of a T plus 4. So this cycle can last until 168 days. So we can have a bounce to the upside and then return to the absolute lows. And if we gauge the total duration, we can have such move by a median duration 130 days up to a maximum duration 168 days. Maximum duration 168 days theoretically is 25 of July 2025, but also this duration needs to be attached to the T plus 5 here. Let's see if we can have this stretch. So 25 July 2025, 25 July 2025, this would be 312 bars. So yes, this is possible because this T plus 4 maximum duration can happen within this t plus 5. So this is the Matryoshka effect. So maximum duration of this t plus 4, 168 days, will stretch this yearly downward cycle at 312 bars. So eventually there will be even more room to have another cycle attached eventually. So this is the situation we have on Meta. So be really careful to open long position, because here we have all the condition to have a t plus 4, and this t plus 4 is negative, so bounce to the upside, but then high likelihood to return back to the absolute lows. um, it might be that this is not a t plus 4 but a t plus 3. Therefore we will not have such condition, but be really careful, because all the markets, the main indexes, Nasdaq, as said, Standard and Poor's and Dow Jones, are set to the downside and not to the upside. On Google, unfortunately, we have the same situation as for Microsoft. So here we have this low that was done on the 7th of April that is lower compared to the low from which the T plus 5 cycle started on the 9th of September 2024. If we gauge the total duration, this yearly cycle has reached 144 bars, so definitely far away from 189 bars, which is the minimum duration. This cycle is turned into a negative one, and is turned into a negative one before its minimum duration. So here we can expect just a bounce to the upside and then a return to the absolute lows. How long can we expect this move? Well, the minimum duration is 189 days. Therefore, this bounce back to the upside and return to the absolute lows. So low that are lower compared to this point is 189 days. So we can expect it by the 10th of June 2025 at least, or at most we can expect this move. So median duration would be by beginning of September. Otherwise, as for the indexes and also from Microsoft, we have seen this situation can happen by even beginning of December this year. So be careful to open long position, especially for or to buy Google if you want to keep it for, let's say, short term. Long term, of course, is another story, but you have to consider that after a bounce, we have to return lower than 142.66. So even if you wanted to, let's say, to start buying Google for long term, you have to be aware that by mid of this year or end of this year, we will have a situation like this. And on Google, the situation seems to be rather clear, because here we have the new T plus 5, and here we have added the new the previous T plus 5, and this T plus 5 um, had a total duration of 216 bars. Okay, so the only thing that can happen is that we have Bayer tongues, but excluding Bayer tongues that are market fake moves and they happen seldom. This is the situation that we have on Google, and we have already the death cross. So Google is not strong compared to Meta or compared to Amazon, and we have similar situation as for Microsoft. Last but not least, we have Tesla. So what has happened on Tesla is, as for the last analysis, I was saying that we could have continued falling down because this T plus 2 was a negative one. Now, we have additional information from the market. So this cycle has been T plus 2. And here I was in doubt whether this was a T plus 1 or T plus 2. But if we gauge the duration from this low until here, we have 38 bars. So we can eventually consider this cycle as a T plus 2. Nonetheless, I was also checking this duration uh, from this low here until this low here, we have 45 bars. So this one can be considered eventually a T+2 hybrid cycle, 45 days. And from this low here until this low here, we have a T+1. So so either we have T+2 and then T+2, or you can interpret it like T+2 hybrid and a T+1. I am more, to be honest, in favor of this second possibility, because looking at the indexes and looking also at the other stocks, I would tend to favor the last cycle that has happened like a T+1, because we have all the stocks then aligned. This is a T+1, so T+2 hybrid until here, and a T+1 neutral, slightly negative. Okay, and now here we have to see what is happening. So from this low here, we have for sure T+1, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars. I got this low here. But we need to see whether from this low we can start something that is definitely let's say wider than a T+1. Okay, and why that? Because on this stock, like Apple and Meta, we have reached a total duration of a T+5 yearly downward cycle that is 240 bars. So it's more than a minimum duration of a T+5. Therefore, here the cycle is completed by time. Hence, once a T+5 is over, we can expect a new T+5. Now, we have the condition, but we can also stretch the duration until 339 bars, which means that we can continue floating, we can continue beyond the steady state, or we can have bounce to the upside and then going down until 339 days. 339 days means that um, on Tesla, we will not have a new T+5, so strong impulse to the upside before at most 28th of August this year. So all the summertime may be spent to have bounce back to the upside, then go down, bounce back, and then go down, something like this, for example, until end of August. And then from end of August, we can start having definitely a new yearly cycle. So this will be the worst case scenario. Otherwise, we can have in the meantime another cycle, and then before end of the summertime, then return to the upside for a new T+5. Okay, this is something that we cannot predict, because here we don't have a crystal ball, and we don't, let's say, talk about opinions, and we do not talk about the geopolitics, etc. We need to look at the data, and we need to look at the numbers. From this top here until this top here, we have the closing of the T+3. Now we have had already some bars below the stop, but if here we have a T+3, then we cannot go back to this top immediately. So be careful, because for the next week there are more probabilities to eventually have a bounce to the upside, but then a return to this area around 250, $270. So this, in other words, is our checkpoint. If we go higher the stop, then we have to make some further consideration whether we can have a hook to the upside that is consistent. But if here we have the beginning of the T+3, then we need to stay lower the stop until for end of this month. Okay, I know that it's not easy to understand, especially if you're new to the channel, but if you want to have a look at the introduction to the T cycle analysis and look at the other videos, then the more you will watch the videos, the more you will understand how it works. because this methodology is not so complicated. It's swing trading, it's not technical analysis, but the more or the longer you watch the video, the better you will understand it. Okay, this is potentially the T plus 3, but of course we still have time. Let's see whether this is the case. Yes, we have 78 bars. We can prolong the duration of the T plus 3 with a hook to the upside until 89 bars, so 29 of April 2025. So eventually with the earnings release, we might have also the hook to the upside that will close the T plus 3, and then boom, a return to the downside. But this is something that we have to see on the way through. At the moment, this is a good candidate to say this is a T plus 3. We have had this, the T plus 5 that has reached more than a minimum duration. So here the game is open with the earning release, whether we will start a new T plus 5 or if we have a bounce to the upside and then a return to uh, this low here at $214.25. Okay, so the situation here on Tesla as well as for Meta is more fluid. So we are not binded to the downside because we have the minimum duration for the T plus 5, but still, as I keep repeating for all the other stocks, the markets, the main markets, the main indexes are set to the downside until beginning of May this year. So be extremely careful to open long position right now. This is all. Thanks for watching. Hope this video has given you a lot of insights. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, and so that you will get notified as soon as possible regarding what I publish. Thanks for watching and have a nice weekend.